So my first question is, why did you shave the beard off? You came out when Tony introduced you to the set. I'm sure I saw you before in the pub, but like I wouldn't have been able to tell it was you.
No one ever does. The last time I was clean shaven was probably about 10 years ago. And I remember I was working in a cafe and staff members didn't recognize me.
Mental.
Like no one, I look completely different, which is fine. It's been fun. It's like a nice way of increasing my anonymity.
Okay.
If I want to show up to a show,
enemy at the state.
Appear, it's so good because I can just like, I remember when I first shaved it, I'd stand in the back of the room and people kind of look over at me like confused. People I've known for almost 10 years now, because I've been over here for like eight and a bit. And then I would go up, do my set, and they'd be like, "Oh, that was Chris." And I'd be like, "Ah, gotta go. See you later." So for that, if I didn't want to talk to people at first, it was great. But I honestly, there was no reason. I just took it off. I was in the mountains at my dad's house. He lives in British Columbia, in Squamish near Whistler, and I'd been over there for a little while, and I was like, gonna shave today. I don't think I'd seen my face in a decade. So
everyone's waiting for the barbers to come back and reopen and hairdressing and stuff like that. But it's the only place where you'll go to pay someone to actually give you less. That's it. That's that whole process.
Yeah. Unless you got a shitty stockbroker. But I haven't had my hair cut like professionally in years because I've just been shaving my head for. Yeah. I found out I was balding when I was 22, and I was on a night bus in London. And do you know?
That's very specific. Did you realize on the night bus? Like
literally on the night bus. I'll never forget. It was traumatizing. I was fucking exhausted, and it had been a bad night. And I looked in the security camera, and just this glimmer, because they have that screen at the front of the bus. So something kind of shone. I was like, "Oh, what was that?" And I got a closer look as they rotated the cameras. And it was just the back of my fucking head.
Where in Canada are you from?
I grew up in a place called White Rock, which is a really small town on like right at the southern westernmost corner of Canada, where it meets sort of like, it's right on the American border. When I grew up pre 9/11, so we could just walk across the border on the beach and the guards would just wave at you. It wasn't a big deal.
Right. Nice.
And it was a cool little beach town. It was really nice. I was born in Dawson Creek, which is a real place, and is like a mining camp in northern British Columbia. It's right near sort of Alaska. It's in that area, a little bit further south. But yeah. So, but then I grew up in White Rock, which is close to Vancouver. It's boring as hell. Like a perfect place to grow up if you want to be creative because you're bored and angry.
Sure.
Or if you want to be like an estate agent.
Okay. I completely understand. Yeah. Where are you based, by the way? Because like
I live in London.
I wasn't sure because obviously I've seen so many sets of you here that I assumed that you were in Bristol.
Excuse me. The only reason I live in London is I don't drive, and it's where all the trains come and go to.
Okay. Yeah. That is. I think it says that on the sign for London. Actually, that's the highlight. Yeah.
Yeah. I come here because it's easier to leave. Whereas Bristol's a ball ache. So.
A friend of mine said that he trying to sell London. He was like, London, where cranes are born.
Fact. Yeah, they are. They're fucking everywhere. It can make for a beautiful night sky, I guess. I don't even notice them anymore. The city is I have a love-hate relationship with this city where every now and then I'll have a really great time. And I think there's a lot going on and it's fun and it's interesting. And then other times I just grumble and I'm furious about it because it's too big and too angry. Yeah. And it's sad. It's a sad place to be. And I like when I'll meet a lot of other, Canadians or Australians or Greeks or whatever. And we'll get to talking and the first question is always like, oh, so do you like London? And I never lie. I always say no.
Yeah.
And the relief
which, by the way, is the correct answer.
Yeah, no, it's not. No one likes it here. That's why people move so fast when they're outside, because no one wants to be in London. People want to be in places in London. Yeah. That's all. So as soon as you're outside, it's like, get me the fuck out of this place. I hate it. Surrounded by guns. That is a great restaurant. Like, I'm willing to be in London to be in that restaurant. That's all. That's it.
Why did you move, first off? Why aren't you Canadian or even American based?
I started in doing stand-up in Canada. I did it there for about 3 years in Montreal while I was going to university. I dropped out of university to do stand-up. And I got to a point, Montreal is like Bristol, where it's a great place to start because it's a small sort of compassionate scene, honestly. We were really competitive, but we all sort of had each other's back. There was one bar called Grumpy's that everyone ended up in at the end of the night because bars are open until 3 a.m. there, all pubs and everything. It's really so civilized. And so no matter what show ended, we'd all end up back there and we'd talk about our shows and just whatever bullshit. It was a really great community. I'm still good friends with most of the people I started with. But like Bristol, there's sort of nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you get competent,
do you mean nowhere to go upwards or just
career-wise? Yeah, because there were 2 clubs and the bookers were they were good about giving us 5-minute sets, but nothing useful. And so it was sort of, if I wanted to improve, which I did, this is all I've ever wanted to do, I had to go. And I talked to, have you ever seen Glenn Wool?
No.
You got to see Glenn. Glenn is amazing, like genuinely one of the best comics going. Okay. He's been going forever.
Right.
But I got to meet him, which was a big deal for me. And because he had done the UK and America and Canada, I asked him, like, what do you do? Should I move to Toronto, which is Canada's London, for comedy? Should I try for the States or should I go to England? And he was like, fuck Toronto. And the States costs 10 grand for Canadians to even apply to go and work there with lawyer fees and visas and everything. And you might not get it back. And I just didn't have that money. So I've got an Irish passport. So I came over here.
Oh, so the Irish roots made sense. It was easy get.
Yeah, he just literally just showed up and went straight to work. Okay. And also because I'd lived over in Brighton for 3 years when I was younger, I had a bunch of friends that ran bars. So I just picked up a job right away and hit the ground running.
Amazing. Yeah. That's incredible. So how would your first set go? Like ever?
Weirdly good.
Yeah?
Yeah, surprisingly good. I remember I was insanely nervous because I'd wanted to be a stand-up since I was like 6. So everything kind of led up to it. And I didn't start until I was 25, 26. Okay. Yeah. Because all my favorite comics had a real point of view and seemed to know things about the world. I didn't want to be up there and have nothing to say. And that's not that I think that all stand-up should be important or like worldly or anything. It's just that I knew that the stuff that I loved was, or at least had like a depth of a life lived. And so I hated the idea of going up there and just saying things that I could say to people in bars over a table. Sure. And so I went out and I purposely lived the craziest life I could. And then one day I finally started doing stand-up, which was when I was in Montreal. I was going to university. And my first set, I remember I would go and I would watch open mics, but just like sit in the back with my notebook filled with jokes, knowing that I was going to do a show eventually. And one guy caught me, this guy, Jeff Schuella, who's a friend. He came up to me before a show that I wasn't on. And he's like, you a comic? I was like, no, I've never done it. He's like, you will. Correct. Spotted it. Well done, Jeff. Good job. But yeah, I was panicking before my first show. Like full on sweaty, borderline vomity mess. And the MC for the open mic, it was at the Comedy Nest in Montreal, which is like this great old venue. And he saw how nervous I was. His name's Peter Radomski. And he pulled me aside, brought me into the green room, which wasn't allowed for new act nights. There was this weird like hierarchical bullshit where new acts weren't allowed in the green room. You had to earn your way in. Right. Like, whatever. But he brought me in there, just me and him, while the act before me was on. And he talked to me about everything but stand-up. He just asked me about my family, what I was interested in, what I was studying. And he got me just like distracted enough that my nerves settled a little bit.
Got your mind off it. Amazing.
Yeah, and I went on stage and I did my set. And I honestly think that if it wasn't for him, I might not have done it again because I would have thrown up on stage. That's a guarantee.
Do you think he thought you were going to do really well or going to bomb? From his perspective?
I have no idea. I honestly think, I mean, Peter he's got a reputation for taking new comics under his wing anyway, which I found out since. He kind of, once you get good, he does abandon you. It's a really weird dynamic.
Wow. That sounds like a toxic relationship. I'd be careful.
It is a little bit, but I gotta love him because he did a lot for me, and he was a really
That
kind.
sounds like my dad.
Yeah, yeah, he's a dad that would have left when I hit puberty and could have beat him in a fight, kind of thing, you know.
I completely understand. Yeah, yeah.
But he was incredibly sweet to me, and I'll never know why he did it. I assume he just didn't want to have to clean up puke off his stage. But he brought me up. I did well. I remember getting a laugh on a joke that I didn't expect, because I didn't expect to get any laughs. I expected to do a set and walk off to silence. And I remember I got a laugh, and I was so surprised that I forgot what the thing I was supposed to say next was. And I just said that into the mic. I was like, honestly, I wasn't expecting to laugh. I've gone completely blank. I've got to go to my notebook. And so I walked over to the stage, and they all just started laughing and clapping. I was like, oh, this is easy. And then the thing that really told me that I might be doing something, that I might have something, was the headliner of the new material night, because they were bringing one pro to close it out, just so that people at least got like one laugh out of the night. Yeah. She referenced one of my jokes in her set.
Great.
And I'd been up.
That's nice.
I'd been up 4 or 5 acts before she came up, and so it was like something I said stuck with her.
Yeah.
And that felt really fucking cool. And
yeah.
so that as much as anything got me to keep going with it.
What a cool little story. That's such all of that is such enthusiasm from your get-go. My only negative to stand-up comedy is that sometimes comedians will have one set and they will just repeat it over and over and over again, finessing it. And you don't do that whatsoever. You'll have some jokes I've seen before, but otherwise your set is fresh each time I see it. Is it important to you to mix it up as much as possible?
Yeah, partly for me, it's like a creativity thing. Like I've got old jokes that work and are like absolutely functional. They're good jokes, but I don't like them anymore. And so I'm just bored of it. Like I've got jokes that used to do great, and I can't even remember what was funny about it. Like it just seems like such a logical progression of ideas now that the magic's gone. And so part of it is for me because I always want to keep writing and growing. And that's how you become good. I remember there was a guy when I first started who had this bulletproof 5. It was crazy. He'd tear the roof off. And he did that so much, and he got so used to killing, that he forgot how to bomb. And that became a trap. It really hindered him when it came to developing new material. Because he hadn't built up the callus of heckles or silence. And failure is such a big part of stand-up that you really need to do that. And so I took him as like a warning sign that I always need to keep producing new stuff, and I need to keep working, and I can't worry about doing poorly because I want to push it out there and see what I can get out of this idea or if this might work. And that's honestly, my favorite shows are new material shows because that's the most exciting time for me. Because if I'm getting paid real money to do a show, I know it's going to go well because, as well as you can. Sometimes an audience doesn't work out. But my stand-up is like, on average, I'm going to have a great time. Yeah. But the risk is in the new material, so I enjoy that. And as a result, I end up writing a bunch of new stuff. But also, I'm really aware that people come back to shows. And so for the audience, I don't want to show up, tell the same jokes, and have them be like, oh, okay, I know what that guy does. I won't see him next time. I want there to be an element of, what was that? I saw him 3 weeks ago, and he didn't fucking do that. And so the idea of shuffling it up, it's part for me, and it feels like a professional responsibility to be able to entertain the audience again, because you never know. I did this one show. I hadn't done it in like a year and a bit. It was in London, and it's one of my favorite shows. And I started on a joke that I'd done the last time I was there because someone had requested it. Oh, and really? a whole group at the back was like, oh, and I was like, shit, I didn't realize you'd be back. It was a year ago. This is crazy that you're back again. But as a result, I sort of pivoted and I went into another joke. But yeah, it really feels like a professional responsibility. No one can complain if you're doing new stuff. The career that I want is stand-up led. because it's my favorite thing. I like writing and I like acting, and I'm learning how to do podcasts, which is like fun. And I like making stuff. I like being creative.
Yeah.
And I like learning things a lot. But stand up, I love, and so that's what I want the core of my career to be. And the foundation of a stand up career is fans. And so I try to think fan forward and go, what would I want if I was going to follow someone around and really sort of pay to see them and support their career. Yeah. And part of that is new stuff that's not just new, but has been worked really hard at and is punchy and good and original.
And as a fan, you feel that. I feel it's very rewarding to see you, because it is, you know. Oh, example. I knew I wanted to bring this up at one point, but when you played the wardrobe, you did this whole monologue about tequila and how tequila will never do you wrong, and it just like fucking tears. It just killed me. I thought it was so fucking funny. You mentioning acting there, is that a completely different vibe for you? Because again, we've talked about how your set, although rehearsed and you've written your jokes, is fresh each time you do it is something fresh. But that versus I have to rehearse lines and I have to play these lines, is that any different, or is that very similar?
It's I mean, stand-up helps a lot with that, because it's about timing and inflection and getting exactly, like, a lot of my stuff is very word perfect.
Yeah.
I don't riff a lot within a joke. Like, I've written it a specific way because I want those words to do exactly what I want, and the timing of it is really important. So in that way, it's sort of helped me for rehearsing and things like that. I used to do plays and stuff in high school, and I've done a couple of video things. It was in like a pilot in Canada years ago. And I like acting. I just feel silly. And so I haven't been able to get out of, I'm not an actor. I can pretend convincingly.
Okay, sure.
And so actors will always tell you,
okay,
acting
so you're still Chris Betts. Chris Betts is in this, but it's Chris Betts pretending to be Mexican.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like a way, like, to the point where it doesn't even bear comparison. But I like Vince Vaughn is my acting hero. Where
wow. Dodgeball was great, man.
He's in every single movie. He is being Vince Vaughn. There is no difference. He's never grown. He's been exactly the same guy since like Swingers.
Yeah.
Everything he's ever made, he's been exactly the same. And it works. It's just funny and it's sort of charming. And he's been in a ton of movies and he's had a great career out of it. And it's like, that's my vibe. That's the, I'm never going to be. But also it's not my, it's not my passion. So I don't put the same thing to it. And also acting is so much about introspection. It's about, like, if you're going to cry or feel sad, it's about going into that place within you. And my stand-up isn't even introspective. I don't really talk about myself in my stand-up. I talk about opinions that I have, or maybe some stories, but they're always sort of surface stuff. I don't go too deep because I'm just not that way. I don't think about myself generally. And so why would I make other people do it?
Sure.
So as a result, I think that would make me a worse actor because I don't access those emotional depths personally.
Right. You're a Canadian robot. I understand.
Yeah, completely, exactly. I'm just having a nice time. I don't care.
When you write your set, how do you do it? Is it literally as simple as, this makes me laugh, it'll make other people laugh? Or
that's always where it starts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every joke that I say on stage, whether it's done well or not, made me laugh first.
Right.
Yeah, like out loud to myself, like a lunatic. Like, I'll just be walking around and I'll think something very fucking stupid, and I'll go, like that dog sex joke that I have. Have you seen that? Where, like, people are the only animals other than dogs who sometimes have sex with dogs.
I know that one. Unfortunately, obviously from Bristol, so I actually know that guy who's done that.
No, really?
Yeah. In fact, I was thinking about him the other day because I was thinking, man, that guy must either be really great or really terrible at lockdown. And that rumor that it's like it's kind of weird, but then you talk to someone else and they have also heard the rumor.
Okay, so no one's caught him in the act.
There, but
no one's caught him in the act. It's still rumor then.
Yes, I don't want to have to engage with him, man.
Okay.
This is the man who supposedly had sex with a dog, but more people have said that he's had sex with a dog. So I've cut him out. Describe Chris Betts versus the Audience. What is it? I haven't actually been to your Voices the Audience show, so please do tell.
Really, really, really fun. So it's I will argue the opposite of anything anyone in the audience says. So the audience will shout something out, and then I will take the opposite stance, and then I argue with the whole audience. So they're one big team, and I have to just knock down all of their arguments and disprove them. And I bring in a guest comedian judge who's on like a god mic, and they can stop us anytime. They can be like, that argument's bullshit, and here's why. Expand on that. What do you mean by this? Okay. And then they decide not who's right, but who argued best.
Okay.
So I
love it.
It's so fun, and what I love about it is it gets it'll get like really gross, but I'm allowed to take those positions like insane. One rule that I have is I won't make an argument that I've heard before.
Okay.
So if someone brings up, like when I first started, a lot of people would love to yell out like apartheid, and I'd have to defend apartheid.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to try to find just like a funny little angle on it that no one was expecting. And so then they can't be like, racism's wrong. Because obviously racism's wrong. We all agree on that. And then you'll fall into camps, and then there's no fun. There's no play. And so I remember it was the first argument I ever did. I tried it out at before I even did it as a full show, I did it as a 10-minute set just to try the premise. And the first one was apartheid. And I said, apartheid created small communities that are immune from gentrification.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So it was just about redefining the argument to a place where everyone can chill out and enjoy talking about something that they would never get to talk about anywhere else. And so it's all pointless. None of the points mean anything. But what's nice is that the first round will be something innocuous. Like a popular one is shouldn't be a crime. And so people tell me things that are illegal and shouldn't be, or vice versa. And I argue the opposite. So I've argued for like the legalization of drugs, stuff like that. But then the second round, I do regrets. And people tell me things that they regret about their life. And I tell them why it's the best thing they've ever done.
Okay.
And or they tell me things that they're proud of. I tell them why they're a piece of shit for being proud of that. And again, it's really fun.
We're towing the line of toxic relationship here. You're either a guru or that's where you're going here.
Well, I remember I had an actual like judge in once. And he came up to me afterwards and he's like, "You're really good at this. Thank you for not being evil." It's like, cool, man. That's a compliment. That's a compliment. But it gets really real and kind of beautiful. What I love about the show is it doesn't have to be funny. It can be really engaging or contentious. It's always like I always want to bring it back to funny. But in the middle, I'm happy for it to just be really interesting. And the goal is for people to forget that they came in separately. I want them to lose themselves so that they're just engaged in the conversation. And they're shouting out things as they're thinking of them. And the audience is so funny.
Yeah.
They really they come out with some great, beautiful thoughts. And the more they come back, the better they get at the game. And they really start to understand the concept of it doesn't matter if you're right. You just have to argue it. And so they come out with bananas things. But I've had the last time I did it was at Leicester Comedy Festival in February. And a woman told me that she regretted becoming addicted to drugs. And we sort of talked about it. And it was like the audience were really uncomfortable because they weren't sure. They trusted me, but they weren't sure where I was going to take it.
Sure.
But I built it up into this thing of like, well, you've already bottomed out and you know how strong you are because you pulled yourself out of that. And you'll never have a midlife crisis because you had so much fun when you started doing drugs that you got all that out of your system.
Yeah.
And so like you're set now. Nobody can fuck with you. Like you're bulletproof because you know exactly who you are and you know what you're capable of overcoming. And then she was like, "Thanks, man." Like, that's why I'm here. I really I want people to feel
you in that
good.
moment. You were her sponsor. I like that. It's refreshingly like, for lack of a better term, unwoke. Like you're not.
Yeah.
No one's going in there and saying, no, I need to defend this thing because it's morally correct. Like it's just you in the room.
Well, and that's why like so many comics flail when they try to do things that are like purposely anti-woke, is they haven't built up the trust with the audience for them to give you the leeway to explore this idea.
Right.
Whereas inherent in the game is the trust that none of this is what I think. I've always got like a joke at the start of the show where I'll say like I will say awful things, and just because I say something doesn't mean that I mean it. Like for instance, if I was to tell you that Anne Frank was a coward,
right,
and I purposely start with something that's like top shelf, what the fuck are you talking about? Just so they go, whoa, okay, that's what we're here for.
Okay,
he set the bar, we know where he stands.
It's your icebreaker. Yeah.
And so they really, so because of that trust, they understand that I don't mean what I say. I'm just playing a game. And so they let me explore really things that would otherwise ruin my career.
Naturally, we were obviously going to talk about COVID. We're going to talk about coronavirus. You and I are doing an interview via Zoom because we can't touch each other.
No, and that would be a lot of this interview if it wasn't for the distance. It would be mostly touching. This would be a real video.
I'm like an octopus. I would not be able to take my hands off. How long have you been not working as a comedian right now? Like currently?
Basically, from a couple of days after you saw me last on stage. Yeah, the way like comedy's been my job for 5-6 years. Like I haven't done anything else, and so my entire income stream has sort of fallen apart. So I'm trying to find new ways of doing that online, which has been, it's sort of counterintuitive to me because like I said, stand-up was always my main focus. And I would do other things, but stand-up was the one. And so I love performing live, and I made a nice living at it. But now I'm having to try to find ways of doing things online. So I've been making videos every day of writing like topical jokes, releasing them as a podcast as well. I've got do you know coffee.com?
Yes, this is how I got you to agree to the interview.
That's right, you did. I forgot about that. Thanks, man. Yeah. So people have been cool. They've been donating through that. Which, if anyone's listening, coffee.com, KFI.com/Chris Betts. You can send me some money if you want, or check out. I've got all my videos up there as well. But yeah, so I've been making some money through that. There's a sort of a benevolent fund for comics that's been going around, and they've been bumping up a little bit, which is really cool. It's run through Next Up Comedy, who are like, they do most of the video recorded specials for UK comics, but mostly it's trying to, like right now I'm collecting audio recordings from gigs that I have and trying to cut them into almost like a mixtape, like an EP, because I was going to record an album, like a proper album with this American record label.
A musical
last
album?
Week?
Comedy album?
Oh no, like a stand-up album. Because I grew up on albums, not DVDs. Like just listening to stand-up instead of watching it. And so a record label approached me last Edinburgh about recording it, and I was supposed to record it, I guess like this week. And that was going to be released. But so what I'm trying to do is find like recordings of old sets of stuff that isn't going to be on the album once this all finally opens up, and release that as like just a comedy mixtape, just something I can sell, a little bit of passive income. But yeah, it's and creatively, it's a pain in the ass. Writing jokes for people that you can't hear laugh is so frustrating.
I wrote this joke the other day that was about you can't even do jokes about the other day because they didn't happen because you didn't go anywhere. Nothing happened.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of jokes about the insides of people's apartments as soon as this comes out. It's going to be a lot of very boring stand-up, but all I can do is keep making stuff. So if nothing else, it's given me a nice project to do. So I write for 2 or 3 hours every morning. I release sort of the 6 best jokes that I wrote, which is crazy because it's all just brand new material. It's never been run on anyone. I tell them to my wife before I give them to the internet, but other than that, there's not much. So it's been good about learning to write on the fly and learning to write topical jokes about the news, which I've never done in my life. I read the news. I just don't joke about the news. So it's been a cool new skill, but yeah, it's forcing me into a creative corner, which if nothing else, even if it doesn't work out, will make me appreciate stand-up a whole lot more once I get out.
And counterpoint, that is what you do with your sets anyway. You purposely don't rely on what you've got, and you know, not to tell you who you are, but maybe this will make you a better comic.
Yeah, it definitely will. I'm learning more writing skills. I'm learning different ways of delivering to camera, which is weird because there's no laughter to sort of gauge. There's no one to look in the eye, and it's like I'm still not good at it. Like basically right now, when I look at it, I'm mimicking Weekend Update anchors.
I was going to say, how high on the Vince Vaughn-ometer are you?
Yeah, so it's weird because I'm not even quite myself on it because I've never done it before. So I find myself falling into other people's rhythms.
We're all done for questions. If you're willing, then I'd love to do this scenario with you, and then we'll do an outro in terms of you plugging anything you want.
Cool, yeah, let's give it a shot.
So the scenario goes that basically following on from that last question of what does COVID mean for you and you as a working artist, basically I'm going to fill the role of like a Jimmy Fallon talk show-esque host. And you're on the show and you're one of the 3 guests that we've got on the show. And the joke is that it's set during now. And so I'll ask you about all these things you've got coming up, and your answer will be nothing. I've got nothing going. Hi, welcome to the show. We've got a great show tonight. We've got a special guest. We've got Madonna. We've got Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Beck. Chris, how you doing? Welcome to the show. What's going on?
Great. How you doing? Oh, nothing.
You got nothing going on. You got you're here promoting a new movie, Chris Betts. When's it coming out?
Oh, it's not. We're not gonna. We just thought, no, you know, no one's leaving. I'm not leaving. We haven't filmed it. We decided we're not gonna film it. I think film's probably dead. So.
And how's the family?
Yeah, I haven't really been talking to them. I keep to myself. They keep to themselves. You know, there's not a lot going on, so there's nothing to talk about. So it's either nothing or a fight. So I choose nothing.
What have you been watching recently? Anything good?
Nah, nothing. There's sometimes my neighbor takes his dog out, and I yell at his dog. Well, his dog doesn't understand how mean I am, so it's not really that fun.
Chris Betts, everybody! Thank you! Okay, and then finally, what do you want to promote? Where can we find Chris?
Follow me. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and it's at Mr. like MR Chris Betts, and that's where I post all the videos that I've been doing every day. I do them every Monday to Friday. I post, and it'll be 5 or 6 topical jokes. You can find. Normally, I'd say you can find my live dates on thechrisbetts.com, but it's not really an option. I release all my videos on YouTube as well. I've got a bunch of old stand-up videos if you want to see any of that. There's a bunch of good stuff. Apparently, I just hit 9,000 views, YouTube told me, so that was cool. I'm doing that coffee.com thing where you can donate money, and then I'm going to be doing some exclusive content for that. So if you want to check that out, you can come and be a supporter, which is I like coffee.com because it's just £5, £10, whatever, and it's really simple to use.
You've mentioned so many other comedians. Who would be your one to watch at the moment?
If you want to see someone who's already should be huge and isn't, Glenn Wool, I can't recommend enough. I think Glenn is incredible. He's got some albums. My favorite is Let Your Hands Go, which is sort of an older one, but it was also the first one that I came across. But his stuff just keeps getting, it's just so fucking funny and so smart and mean. But I'd say Glenn Wool is incredible. As for new comics, on the rise, if you're in Bristol and you're listening, you probably know, but Morgan Rees makes me laugh so hard.
I've seen it.
He runs Oppo, and he's like he's just about to go full time, I think. But he writes like great jokes, and he works really hard, and he's a goddamn sweetheart. Other than that, I mean, Pierre Novelli's fantastic. Phil Ellis makes incredible stuff. Garrett Millerick, Evelyn Mock, I'm a huge fan of.
Chris Betts, we are all done. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Sean McLaughlin. See Sean McLaughlin. That guy is a monster.
Sean McLaughlin. Chris Betts, we're done.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man.
You're welcome.